India has always had a problem.
Let me put this way. I don't think I just want to make one point. At any given time, there are large numbers of problems. Most of these things were a problem 3 years ago when the GDP was still growing at 9%. I think what happens is that problems are always there, but when things start working well, enough growth occurs, the people say, yes, there are problems, but things are working and they'll somehow get sorted out. When the economy gets stuck and you have a downturn, everybody remembers every single problem, and that's good. I mean, we need to take care of these problems too. But I do not believe that bringing the growth back over the next year or so, let's say definitely seeing an acceleration in the second half of this year, you should ask yourself that question. Is it feasible or not feasible? I don't mean going back to 7%. I'm saying just see an acceleration in the second half. I sincerely believe it's feasible. Okay. Now, there's a lot that we've got to do in terms of getting permissions moving. And quite frankly, I think television should ask this question also. We have created an atmosphere in which officials are very worried about making any decision.
Sure, that's right.
We've created a atmosphere of suspicion in which if you give a permission to a private sector company, it's not the government that objects, but everybody jumps up and says, oh, how come you gave them an unintended favor? I think we need to address this. Government needs to be clear, and that's why the Cabinet Committee on Investment was set up. I mean, somebody mentioned the judiciary. There's been a combination of things which has led to a bit of a slowdown in decision making. I think the government is now they're aware of this, they're trying to take care of it. I think the judiciary is also aware of it. We need to get the system moving so that we can move forward.
Okay.
I don't think that's impossible.
I'll conclude.
If we
I just conclude. Why does it take? I mean, there's a saying that India collapses into shape. Why do we always wait for everything to start going wrong before we start doing things? And I'm equally confident, as you are saying, the future will be okay. But right now, what we need is strong leadership. What we need is confidence in what the government is saying, and the public needs confidence, because no matter what the gold prices are, they're saying let's put money into gold because at least I'm secure. You brought about, and not you personally, an insecurity. That's the first step. Revive the confidence.
Okay, so what will the government do to try and revive that confidence? I just want to show, Dr. Ahluwalia, I just want to show our viewers some figures before we conclude this broadcast. Now, I want to understand from you what you intend to do to turn things around, because several are saying, especially the BJP believes it's already too late and the only solution is to call fresh elections. From about the beginning of June, when the rupee was at 58.98, the rupee crashed to about 69, currently at around 66 rupees. Some of the parameters which really show why the India growth story is going wrong. Let's take a look at the markets, because the markets, which just around the 20th of May was at 20,223, currently at the levels of 18,620, a massive area of concern. It's now called the Halal Street. We went and traveled in several of those places. Investor sentiment really down. And this is what Sunil Alak was just referring to. Gold from 25,000 jumping up to 34 because of government action coming down to 32. Let's take a look at the GDP figures. The government continuously saying GDP figures will perk up, but that hasn't been the case so far, from 5.5 down this afternoon to 4.4%. On every parameter, Dr. Ahluwalia, the economic story of India seems to be on a downward spiral. The BJP says it's already too late. The only solution is to call fresh elections.
Well, look, I mean, you shouldn't be surprised if you hear the opposition politically criticize the government. That's their job. I agree with you that if the test is have we brought about a turnaround, as of now, that's not evident. But I think we never thought that it would be that easy. And what we have said is that the year as a whole, that is 2013-14, we hope we can do better than in the previous year. That is 2012-13. Now 2012-13 we ended up at a 5% average. So the question is, can we do better than that? I think we have 3 more quarters to go, and I believe that we can do better than that. How much better, frankly, I don't know. I agree with you also that for a variety of reasons, the mood is quite negative. I believe the reality is actually better than the mood. Let me tell you that people visiting from abroad are really amazed that, we regard it as an absolute fault of the government that the growth rate has come down to 5%. I mean, let's recognize that in Europe, for 2 years running, they're getting negative growth. So, it's not as if India is the only country going through the slowdown. I'm not saying, by the way, that it's entirely due to what's happening in the world. There are lots of problems at home. We've talked about them. I believe that the government has identified these problems. I believe they've taken some corrective steps. I think they need to do more. There's no question about it. Now, the question is, when is it that will lead to a restoration of confidence? By the way, as far as Indian investors going abroad is concerned, when the going was good, we said this is India Inc., its footprint is abroad, that's good. And I do believe, by the way, that really good Indian companies having a bit of a stake abroad is not a bad idea. It'll get them aware of what happens elsewhere, and maybe they feed back to the government that, look, this is what's happening there, why can't we do the same thing here? So I don't think we should regard Indian investors going abroad as a failure of policy. The fact is, Indian investors go abroad, foreign investors come in. I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with it.
As of now, unfortunately, foreign investors also seem to be heading out, and that's the problem. But Dr. Ahluwalia has made a passionate defense of the government's case on the current economic situation. Has he been at any level able to revive sentiments? We leave it to all our viewers to decide what they think of Dr. Ahluwalia's answers to the questions posed by ID Godrej and Sunil Alak. Thank you very much, Dr. Ahluwalia, for joining us on this broadcast. Thank you, Mr. Godrej, for joining us from Mumbai. Thanks also to Mr. Alak for joining us on this program. Thank you so much. That's all we have time for on Center Stage tonight. As we break for the weekend, we leave you with the latest edition of So Sorry. Enjoy this.